Okay, so today we're going to be taking apart Zcam E2 M4 and reducing it to the components that we need to build up the naked Zcam M4. Going to be using a lot of the 1.5mm driver and posi drive or Phillips head screwdriver. You want to make sure that you get a screwdriver that fits in these screws really nicely, because they're quite hard to unscrew and quite easy to round off. They've also got Loctite on some of them, so you want to make sure, go through your tools and make sure you try out different drivers and make sure you find one that works really well. So on the back here, you're going to have, there are 4 points here, here, here and here that are covered by stickers. You can just shove the driver in, break the sticker and remove those. Take your 1.5mm driver, go around and remove the bolts in the side plate here, but don't remove the side plate just yet. So these buttons are connected with a ribbon cable on the inside, so when you remove this side plate, make sure you don't just pull it straight off and break that ribbon cable. You can see here, connected by a ribbon cable there. The easiest way is to just undo the clip on the board and you can remove that. That's one side panel off. And then do the same on the other side here. This one doesn't have any connectors, you can just take that straight off. So now we have both sides removed. Should be able to just release that back plate now. Like so, you can see it's obviously connected in a few different places. We're going to need to disconnect some of these plugs so that we can remove this part. So you can see here on the rear I/O these two main cables here and here. They are really easy to remove. You just grab it and slide it outwards. I'm going to try and do it on camera. So it's outwards, sliding away. So those are the two main cables out the way. Remove that blue JST. To get this last wire detached, it's actually all connected inside. So just going to leave this attached like that for now, and we're going to go ahead and remove the top panel and the heatsink before releasing the PCBs and being able to release this cable. Now we're going to go ahead and undo these. When you remove those bolts, you'll find that these plates become very loose. It's because they're the only things that were holding them on. So you can remove the bottom plate. And you can remove the top plate like so. And you just need to undo this ribbon cable here. Like that. So you're just flicking it up from the back. And then you can remove that. And now you can see that it's just a front plate with the whole stack kind of mounted behind it. It's held to the front plate using these brass standoffs, which some of them use the same bolt holes as this big heatsink. So I'm going to start by removing the heatsink. You want to make sure you're using a driver that has little to no play at all in these screws. They're quite easy to round off, they're done up very tight, and in some cases they use Loctite. You can see little bits of it over these ones. So you have to be really careful when unscrewing these, because if you round them off it is quite a pain to take apart. So take your time, make sure you're keeping the driver as straight as possible to the nut, and yeah, just take your time. You may need to apply a little bit of heat if they've got Loctite on them, but you have to kind of play each one, take it by a bolt by bolt basis and see how you get on. If I zoom in a little bit here. So this one's unscrewing this little standoff at the same time. That's okay, we'll take that with us. So it's just got a bit of thermal paste on the back of it, just like the Black Magic really, and any heatsink. Got this, yeah, thermal pad over the main CPU. Just want to remove that crap. And then we can chuck this heavy aluminium block out of the way. We're going to be unscrewing any nut that goes into one of these long standoffs to start with. This little brass standoff here is actually acting as a bit of a nut, if you will, and holding the PCB in place. There's a little flat section there that you can get a driver onto. So just take a flathead screwdriver and undo that. Now this whole section is loose. You're going to want to release this ribbon cable here, like so. There's also a little ribbon cable here we're going to need to release. A little bit trickier to get at, but you can get at it from the back. Like so, and then flick it up, and you can pull that one off. So you can see now got this JST connector going to the sensor. So we're just going to pull that out like so, and now we can release that from the body like so. And you can go ahead and pull that off. And now we've got the sensor released, still all attached to the front plate there, so it's all nice and protected. and put this to one side. Now we just have these the two main PCBs here that are still connected by that cable, which feeds all the way around to here. So you can see how we needed to kind of remove all that to get to there. So just get your fingers in there if you can, or use tweezers if you have to, and undo that. And you just pull the wire off the board and feed that through. So now we've got the main two PCBs separated there. Just going to zoom out a bit more. The main two PCBs there. Got the rear I/O board still attached to the back plate there, and we've got the sensor attached to the front plate there. So next up, we're going to remove this board from the back plate. You've got to be extremely careful with this one, because the connector they've used is just surface mounted to the PCB there, and it's quite tricky to undo. There's these little tiny, hopefully my camera will be able to focus on it, there's these little tiny button things either side of this connector that you have to depress while pulling it out. Like that. Pinch it and then pull it, and that should come off nice and easy. Unclip the JST. This is for your USB C, so that's important. Now, the last one of these I did, almost all of the plugs had glue on them, like hot glue. So you're going to want to take a nice little pokey device like this and pick the glue off. Very carefully pick the glue off without breaking the plastic connector, which can be a bit tricky depending on how they've been put together and what batch they did. Maybe at a later stage they started gluing the connectors on so that they couldn't come undone. Who knows? But yeah, this one doesn't have the connectors glued, so it's actually really easy to take apart. This is your antenna, UFL connector and antenna for the Wi-Fi. So you can just pop that off for now. Now we're just going to go around and undo these Phillips head screws. So keep this flat on the table. I was trying to do it at an angle there so it maybe looked a bit better on camera. Just keep this flat, keep your driver parallel, and you're not going to have any issues. And there is our rear I/O board. So you've got HDMI, Ethernet, got the LEDs there as well to tell you what's going on. And we have our lovely power in pads already marked up with silk screen for us. So that's where we connect our power. Very nice of them to put some solder pads there for me. Almost like they knew I was going to make this naked. So USB C. These can be a little bit tricky depending on what batch of cameras you're working with. These might have a lot of Loctite on them. I've had these where they're actually really quite tricky to get off. Best way to do it is get a soldering iron and just heat this up as much as you can. It can take a lot of heat. The whole camera can take loads of heat. So hold your soldering iron on the bolt and it should loosen up nice and easily. These actually look like they haven't used any Loctite, so they should be easier to remove. And it is. So that's the USB C that we need. Be careful with the ribbon cable that comes on the USB C, because it is a proprietary custom piece of flex. It's not just straight through. Don't damage that, or yeah, you're going to be in trouble. Other parts we're going to need to remove from here is the SMA for the Wi-Fi antenna. And for now we can go ahead and put this to one side. Here's the sensor mounted to the front plate, and you can see that there's blue gack on top of these screws. That's simply so that they don't move, and once it's already been focused properly. So yeah, shouldn't be any difficulty getting these off, but again, make sure you're using the right driver for the right screws. These ones are slightly different, so I might switch to another driver, but if I remember rightly, this driver for some reason can do the whole camera. So I like to just put my thumb on the back of the sensor there to hold it in place, because it's spring loaded. When you take these off, you don't want anything flying out anywhere. So you might find it's a good idea to try and scrape that gack off first, so that you can get your driver right in there. So just get a little sharp tool and clean out the slot that the driver wants to go into at the very least. Yeah, see, this isn't a great driver for it. I need something a bit finer. I'm just going to use it to scrape the rest of that off, and I'm just going to go and get another different driver. So you've got a couple of different bits here to try. That one feels quite solid. So this is a PH00, so Phillips head 00. It's not too big of a deal if you round these off, just make sure you get them out. We're not going to be reusing these screws. As I said, it is spring loaded, but it's not like it's not under loads of pressure. Get yourself a bag ready to pop that in. And then we have the sensor, which has actually got a hair on it. so that's the sensor. It's actually got an IR filter built in. Yeah, so pop that in the bag. Pop that to one side. Take these little springs off. We're going to be keeping those, and that's it. You can, the whole front plate, we're not going to be using any other parts from that, so just pop that to one side as well. And there we have it. Believe it or not, that's it. So we have our rear I/O board, our main two boards there, SMA connector, USB C connector, and the sensor, and these 3 springs for the sensor. And those are all the components we need to put together the naked Zcam M4. So yeah, in the next video I'm going to be putting this together.